when I was working for my boss, I thought that that's as good as it gets for me.
Mm-hmm.
And
That was just your
now-
beginning.
Yes, it was just my beginning.
He was your pushy angel just to help you begin to see a larger vision for your life.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we always have vision,
Yeah.
right? So I saw myself working for him for the rest of my life.
Right.
And then my vision expanded, and then it keeps expanding.
Right.
And what I talk about is the way to create a miracle life is by creating a miracle vision.
Peace and riches blessings. I am Michael B. Beckwith, the host of Take Back Your Mind. Peace and magnificent blessings to you, and welcome to Take Back Your Mind. I am your host, Michael B. Beckwith, the founder of the Agape International Spiritual Center. As you know by now, if you've been tuning in, every week I try to bring you someone that I get to have a conversation with that allows you to free your mind from worry, self-doubt, fear, anxiousness, anxiety, worst-case scenarios, so that your mind can be fueled and funded by inspiration, encouragement, transformational knowledge, creative intelligence, unconditional love, divine wisdom, pure intelligence, embodied by the individuals that I get to talk with. Today, after this life question of the week, we will have Hazel Ortega. Her book, From Bounce Checks to Private Jets, The Master of Miracles. We're going to be in a conversation with her here in person in a few moments. But right now, this question is coming from Lakeisha. She says, I'm grappling with thoughts and feelings regarding two male members who have been emotionally and physically abusive towards women, including the women in our own family. Although I've never been abused by them, I felt uncomfortable around them, which I'm forced to do at family events. Both men have claimed mental illness as a reason or an excuse for their abuse. But they continue to hold abusive thoughts and energy. I know that they are emanations of the presence that I'm supposed to see and look for the divine in them. However, lately my mother, without my permission, has been trying to invite them over to my house for a visit. Should I welcome them into my home? How do I ignore the abusive behavior and only see the divine? Any insight would be available. This is a very beautiful question, and obviously these individuals are suffering some kind of mental illness and a severe emotional immaturity. Abusive people obviously are hurt. They've suffered some kind of trauma that's unhealed. Their mind has been hijacked by the trauma that has not been brought into the surface, into the light to be transmuted. And they're dangerous, as you say, to other women and see even women in your own family. The key thing that you're asking here is your mother's been trying to invite them over to your house. Not your mother's house, but your house. You feel uncomfortable? You don't feel safe? The answer is no, you don't have to allow them to come to your house. Pure and simple. And if the conversation arises, you can say very clearly, seek some help. You're claiming that you're mentally ill? See a therapist. See a spiritual practitioner. See a psychologist. See someone that's going to help you stop using mental illness as an excuse to abuse women. The answer is no. They do not have to come to your home, particularly if you're not feeling safe. Please explain that to your mother. You love these men in your family. You're praying to see the divine in them, but obviously they have to see it in themselves so that they can see it in other people, particularly women. Today, we're living in an age in which the divine feminine is rising. It's all over the world. It's in India, it's in Africa, it's in Iran, it's in America. Women and the feminine energy is now, which has been suppressed by the patriarchy for decades and longer, is now returning to the throne. We used to live in a matriarchal society years ago. Patriarchy suppressed it through fear of the power of the feminine. The feminine is coming back. So this movement of your no, it's not being a bitch. It is being an empowered woman saying, not in my house until you get some help. Nakisha, stand strong. Appreciate your question. You may be assisting others as well. Anyone who wants to ask a question of me, just write a podcast at michaelbeckwith.com. Say your name, and if you want to say what state or city you're from or what country you're from, that's okay too. And I'll do my best to shed light on your question. Have a beautiful day. Peace and blessings and welcome back. As I said earlier, I was going to have Hazel Ortega with me in person, and here she is. And how you doing, Hazel?
I'm doing great, thank you.
Good to see you. Last time I saw you was backstage at Agape International. It's a great day.
Yes, it was.
So, if you don't know who this woman is, let me tell you. She's called a Master of Miracles, a senior entrepreneur, an educational psychologist specializing in vocational rehabilitation. Born and raised in Los Angeles, California, born in General Hospital, lived in downtown LA. She overcame a challenging upbringing in a poverty-stricken neighborhood. Now, in her book, it's right here, From Bounce Checks to Private Jets, The Mastery of Miracles. Hazel shares her inspiring journey of transforming her life and creating success for herself and her family. With a deep understanding of how our stories shape our lives, Hazel empowers audiences as a speaker, guiding them to manifest their dreams and discover the miracles within their own lives. She is dedicated to helping others rise above their circumstances and achieve extraordinary results. Her company, Ortega Counseling Center, has become a beacon of hope and change, assisting nearly 45,000 injured workers. Those individuals once faced bleak prospects, found their way back to school, started rewarding career paths, thanks to the center's tireless efforts. As the founder of the High Tide Global Foundation, Hazel is committed to bringing educational opportunities to the most impoverished and at-risk communities in the world. And check this out, the Entrepreneurs Organization that she's a part of just recognized her work with the 2023 Global Social Impact Award. Congratulations on that.
Oh, thank you.
That's pretty big.
Yeah.
But you didn't. You were supposed to receive it in South Africa, but
Yeah.
you received it in Mexico.
In Colombia.
Colombia. Outstanding. Congratulations. You're doing
Thank
great
you.
work.
Yeah.
Now,
I'm really proud.
tell these beautiful people, a little bit about your journey. I mean, obviously we have the book here, but what happened in your journey for you to overcome? What were the circumstances? And what was your journey that allowed you to transcend them?
I grew up here in Los Angeles, in downtown LA, in one of the poorest neighborhoods. And by the time I was born, my parents were already separated. My parents are immigrants from Mexico,
Mm-hmm.
and they met as teenagers.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was born, my dad was already starting to use drugs,
Mm-hmm.
and eventually became a heroin addict.
Mm.
And he was in and out of prison for the next 20 years.
Mm.
I remember receiving letters from him from prison, and always staying in touch, but never physically being there.
Right.
He would also often be in LA County jails, and we would drive by. We were only 2 miles away from the downtown LA Twin Towers.
Wow.
And my mom would say to me, hey, look, that's where your dad's at.
Wow.
Wave to your dad.
Wow.
And I'd be 5, 6, 7 years old and doing that. Sometimes I see the buses with the inmates getting transferred from one location to another, from Twin Towers, wherever they're transferred to. And I'd always also look in the bus and see if I saw him. And he always was on drugs until the day he died. He was a heroin addict. He died 63 years old. He never remarried. I'm his only daughter. I'd like to say that, once you have perfection, you don't have to keep having kids, But
he came to do what he was supposed to do where you're concerned.
Yes, exactly. I believe that now wholeheartedly, actually. I think he was meant to be my father, and the lessons learned from that are what I'm teaching now to other people.
And a lot of this recorded in this particular book, from bounce checks to private jets?
Yeah, I write in this book my story of growing up poor on welfare. I mean, we used to pay for food with food stamps.
Yes.
And I don't remember being embarrassed by that at all, because everybody else was paying with food stamps, so no problem there.
Right.
And then I grew up in a 60-unit apartment building. And during the 80s, LA was riddled with gang members.
Yes.
We had the world's deadliest gang rule our streets, which was the MS-13, Mara Salvatrucha.
Yes.
George Bush came on the news and said that they were our domestic terrorists.
Right.
And these guys were the enemy to the gang that ruled the street that I was on.
Wow.
So there were always constantly death everywhere.
Right.
It was very dangerous. And so we lived like a very constricted experience of living, where my mom didn't even let us cross the street or go to the local diner because drive-by shootings were very common. By the time I was 12, my best friend was killed while we were waiting at the bus stop.
Both of you were sitting there together?
Yeah. Waiting for the bus stop, the gangs came, and like always, they ask you, what gang are you from? And we tend to run away. But this time, the next day, we found out that Wabbit had been killed. He was stabbed with an ice pick. No one talked to us about how we're feeling. We didn't process the loss. My mom didn't even talk about the funeral or if I wanted to go. No psychologists were talking to us about that. It was just like another one bites the dust. So many people were dying all around. And so that was that. And then my cousin was shot and killed by the police. He was dressed like a gang member. And a gang member had just robbed a liquor store. And they thought that it could be him when he was walking by. And when they tried to stop him to find out why he was there, he ran. And he ended up being shot and killed. And he was not the person that robbed the liquor store.
Right.
At 19 years old, my other cousin was killed in a drive-by shooting, and he was actually the one perpetrating the drive-by shooting.
Your cousin was?
He was the one that initiated that. However, the gang members were able to retaliate, send fire back out, and they shot him as he was driving away. Yeah, so this is
your childhood.
My childhood, yes.
You didn't have a childhood?
No.
Or you had an interesting childhood?
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
And then my mom married and divorced many times while I was growing up. And I told you we lived in a 60-unit apartment building.
Right.
Every time my mom married a new person, we move apartment. But we always stayed in the same apartment building.
The same building.
Exactly.
See, it was a lateral move.
Yes. And sometimes she would break up with them and then come get back together with them, so we'd have to move again.
Right.
Yeah.
So in some of your teaching, you talk about the sob story, how you got over, you didn't let your sob story define you, and you help people get through their sob story.
Yeah.
Yeah, talk about that for a minute.
Well, another thing that happened is when I was 21 years old, my mom was pregnant with her 7th child, and she shot and killed her boyfriend. And she had a 1-year-old and pregnant, and she became a fugitive. She was on the run for 5 years.
You didn't see your mother for 5 years?
I did see her.
You saw her, but she was on the run from the police.
She was on the run from the police.
Yeah.
And some period of time she was in Mexico, and then she crossed back and raised the kids here in LA, but always in hiding. I mean, picture this. I'm watching television, and she's on a Spanish-speaking show
Right.
called Placas,
Right.
which is like an America's Most Wanted. but
Right.
for
So you
the
see your mother
Latino.
on television.
Yes. And I know where she is. Surreal. And that was happening for 5 years. The police would raid our parties thinking that she was there. They would raid our home in the middle of the night looking for her. Like a whole world of that for 5 years. Until she went to prison. And then her 2 youngest kids came to live with me when I was in my late 20s. I was already married and I had a 2-year-old. And so I instantly had a 2 and a 4 and a 6-year-old.
And you're only 20 what?
Like 27 years old. And
Still
I'm married.
Still a baby yourself. And have a husband and everything.
Oh, yeah. I was never a baby. Like when growing up the way I grew up, that's not my experience.
Right.
That I had a childhood.
Wow. So this is pretty intense.
Yeah.
But what happened for you to like make this transformation in your life? Because you talk about it in your book, you can have a sob story, you could get over it.
Yep.
You know, so break that down for us. Because you're here today, you've received this powerful award. You have so many businesses out there that you're starting. It's like you've taken your childhood and you're working with people in prisons, you're working with people who've been hurt, you're working with like parts of yourself that you were growing up. It appears as though you've developed an entrepreneurial spirit to handle a lot of the issues that you personally experienced.
Yeah, for sure. I'm a problem solver.
Yeah.
That's what entrepreneurs do.
Right.
Well, I was already on the trajectory, just like my mom. I was violent. I didn't finish high school. I got a job just like everybody else where your family member works. There's a job opening and we need to pay bills.
Right.
Right. And so I started working at a law office. And the attorney that I started working for was the first Latino I had ever seen.
Really?
And I had around me, the Latinos were waiters and.
This is the first Latino having this kind of position.
Yes.
I see.
The first successful Latino lawyer I had ever seen.
Okay.
And when he interviewed me, he asked me what gang I was from.
Wow.
Imagine
That's
that.
in your interview process?
Yes, because I was rough around the edges, like he could tell.
Right.
And plus I put the high school that I had attended. I attended 4 different high schools. And one of them happened to be in Highland Park, which is very heavy gang. I mean, they were all gang areas, but that one he was particularly knowledgeable about.
Right.
And he asked me if that was my gang.
Right.
Yeah. And so...
How did you answer the question?
I just laughed about it.
Oh, you didn't say anything?
No.
You didn't say yes or no?
No, I didn't.
You just said...
And I think it was kind of a joke too, but, you know, I was like, I'm from another gang, not that one.
Right.
Yeah. And so then he asked me, you're in college, right? And I was 26 years old and I was not in college. But my dad always told me, fake it till you make it.
Right.
And so I tell him that.
This is the dad that was in prison, or?
Yeah.
Okay.
That was one of his favorite sayings.
Fake it till you
I
make
learned a lot from my parents, even though they had all the problems that they had.
Right.
They also had lessons learned.
Yeah, of course.
Or like they would say, take my advice. I'm not using it.
Right. I have a friend who has that as her podcast show.
Oh my goodness, that's genius.
Take my advice, I'm not using it.
Yes. So what I say about all of this is my sob story could be that because I have these parents, it's okay that I don't live out a successful life, right? Because nobody would say to me, oh, you could be doing so much more. If anything, they're saying to me like, wow, you're good. You know, you're great. You didn't end up in jail like your parents, right? And that's the sob story that I used for a long time of why I wasn't seeking success.
Right.
Right. I didn't go to college because my neighborhood. I didn't go to college because nobody in my family went to college. Nobody talked to me about college. That was a sob story that I was using.
Right.
Until I went to work for this lawyer who had like a no BS kind of thing.
Right.
And he encouraged me to go back to school. And at first I was not happy about that, but I saw it as a necessary thing I had to do in order to keep my job.
Right.
Like it was an expectation.
Right.
Right. And so For me, I think like he was one of my first mentors.
Mm-hmm.
And these are people that see something in you that you can't see for yourself.
That's right.
Right? And so in retrospect, at first I didn't like him. In retrospect, now that I gained all the success starting from my education when he encouraged me, now I see him and others as pushy angels.
Yes, tell us about that. I saw that. Pushy angels. Yeah.
Yeah, so these are the people that encourage you to go back to school, that encourage you to leave bad relationships, that see something greater for you. And then sometimes you're in your comfort zone and you don't like that they're telling you this.
Right.
And so, but it is the best. It is. They see something in you.
Yeah.
And we just don't want to be uncomfortable as human beings.
Right.
But just a little bit of discomfort could make a big difference.
Yeah. I used to call that, I sometimes still do, the angel of progression will kiss you. The angel of evolutionary progression will come kiss you to move you out of your comfort zone. But it will look demonic. It will look negative. It will look bad. But when you start to grow, you realize it's a pushy angel. You realize it's actually something coming to move you out of that comfort zone, which we're not really comfortable in, if we're honest with ourselves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we're not really honest. Most people are not honest with themselves. They don't want to face
Right.
the truth. And so they'll live in that lie that they're good.
Right. And they'll become masters at excuses.
For sure.
They'll take their mastery and become a great excuse maker.
Exactly.
Like you said, you could have used all those excuses. You know, your father went to jail, your mother was on the run, you're surrounded by gangs, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You could become a master of excuses. But instead, you went from bounced checks to private jets.
That's right.
Tell us about that title. Is this a part of your personal life here?
That's real. So I grew up with these parents that I never saw them work a day in their life.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And so I didn't know how to manage my finances, and I was bouncing checks all the time.
Mm.
And
This is part of your life.
that was my life, and there was no problem with that. So
Right.
what?
Right.
You know, really, I was very cynical about it. It's,
Right.
So what? I
Right.
want what I want right now,
Right.
and I'll write a check for it. And Friday, when my bank, my paycheck goes into the bank account, it'll cover that check, and I'll be negative again, and I'll
Right.
keep.
Plus,
that was the
plus
cycle.
the fees.
The fees.
You were giving away money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It didn't matter. I was not conscious of that. I wasn't actually looking at that.
Mm-hmm.
I was looking at that I wanted what I wanted at the time. And then I kept going to school, and I became a psychologist
Mm-hmm.
with the encouragement of my boss
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of people that helped me along the way. I learned how to ask for help so I can get through it. And at this time, 3 kids, working full time and going to school at night and on weekends. It takes something. So
Sure.
it takes a village, you know.
Sure.
And I got help. I'll say that nobody makes it by themselves.
Right.
All these self-made millionaires, that doesn't happen. There's a lot of people behind the scenes that help.
Absolutely. It's a
you know.
team.
Yes. And I couldn't get anything accomplished before that because I didn't know how to ask for help. I used to think help was a sign of weakness.
Mm-hmm.
I suffered. I went through things. And even after I wrote the book, my high school friends asked me, why didn't you tell us that you were going through all of this? And I'm like,
They actually read your book.
yes, they were. Yeah, I know. Some family members haven't read my book.
Not even to this day.
No. No. And so my friends read it, and they're like, why didn't you ever ask us for help? And I said, I didn't even know that I could.
Right.
Right? I've been raised like, it's up to me.
Right.
That's the American way, too.
Right.
If it's to be, it's up to me.
Right. Rough
Right.
individualistic kind of moving through the world. Right.
And that got me this far.
Right.
It wasn't until I started asking for help that I was able to leverage my time, my resources, right? And so I ended up graduating from school, and I evolved my self-esteem, right? So when I first started school, I thought I couldn't do it. And then little by little, I accomplished passing a class, passing the semester, then the second semester, and then my self-esteem started to build up.
You're saying something interesting because a lot of times in America, they want to build kids' self-esteem, but without works. They just want to say, you're great, you're beautiful, even before they've done something, rather than tie it to something. You learn how to tie your shoes, that's beautiful. You learn how to read, that's beautiful. And I think that carries more embodiment. Your self-esteem actually came from something you did, even though you're made in the image and likeness of God, even though we're perfect inside spiritually. Real self-esteem comes from an accomplishment of some kind.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's where you curated your self-esteem. You did something that your former self thought you couldn't do, and then momentum took over.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So that's how I started to change my mindset.
Yeah.
And I also changed my environment, right?
Okay. Yeah.
So I was poor and bouncing checks, and poor in the sense of poor mentality.
Yeah.
Right.
There's a
And
difference between being poor and broke.
yeah, definitely. I
Yeah.
had a home. I
Yeah.
had food.
Yeah.
I had fun. And what ended up happening was now I changed my pond, right? People say, Hazel, you grew up in this bad area, but you were a big fish in a small pond.
Yeah.
And I say, a big fish can't grow in a small pond.
Right.
You have to change your pond.
Uh-huh.
So I changed my pond to an environment, first with the attorney, right? Being around attorneys and judges. And I'm not in trouble, right?
Not bowing your head and trying to sneak by.
Exactly.
Right.
And then I changed the pond when I started going to college.
Yes.
Now I'm with people that are using education as a vehicle
Yes.
to improve their lives.
Right.
Right. And then from there, I started a company from the garage of my home. Back before it was cool to work from home.
Yeah. Back before we were almost forced to work from home. Yeah.
Because we couldn't afford getting an office, so we worked from home.
Right.
And when my dog would bark, I'd be so embarrassed, like, oh my gosh, they're gonna know I'm
What company
home.
did you start?
I had.
Were you still working with the attorney at this time when you started your business?
No, I was working as a psychologist.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
That's where you did it? You did psychology out of your garage?
No, I
this is
did
another
vocational counseling.
Okay.
Which is the same kind of business, except I had my initial business with a business partner, and now I'm a solopreneur. But I started from the garage, and I had to ask for help. I could not afford to get an office. And so I converted the garage into an office, and somebody gave me 2 desks and 2 chairs. Somebody gave me 2 computers and printers, and somebody else gave me letterhead. And we started our business. Yeah, we couldn't have done it without the help of all these people.
Right.
So again, my point always, like, ask for help, and people want to help.
Right.
They do. They're just waiting for you to ask, right? Otherwise, they don't know what you need.
Absolutely. I define help as hello, eternal, loving presence. Throw myself open for help. And so the presence will bring whatever it is I need in the form of a person, in the form of an event, an opportunity. But if you don't ask for help, then you're closed and you can't receive what the universe is trying to give you. Because the universe and pushy angels and angelic angels, life is trying to give you something. But if you're not receiving it, you're not being gracious enough to receive the gift.
Exactly.
Then you become a master of excuses.
Yes, exactly. Sob stories, right?
Right, sob stories.
Yeah.
And everybody's got them.
Everybody. Anytime that you find yourself saying, I can't go back to school because I'm old, I have kids, I don't have time, I don't have the resources, that's a sob story.
Right.
Is you can have that story, or you can have the story of that you can do anything.
Absolutely.
And that's what I did. I actually got over my sob stories. I could not make any excuses anymore. And I could have what I have because I want it, or I could not have it because I don't want it.
Absolutely.
And no more excuses.
No more excuses.
Yeah.
No, that's powerful. So break down, you do a lot today.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit of everything that you have entrepreneured your way into manifestation. There's a lot.
Yeah,
but I want
is a
people to
lot.
see it.
Yeah. Well, I have
You have let me
this
look at
counseling center that I started from my garage.
You still have the counseling center?
Yes.
Okay.
And when I started from my garage, I said that I wanted us to be #1 in California. And today we are the #1 and largest counseling center that specializes in helping injured workers train and get jobs they love.
Wow.
That was my experience.
And 45,000 people, I think I read.
Yes, 45,000 people helped.
These are people that have been in accidents.
On the job. They're older. Many of them don't speak English. Many of them haven't used a computer. And we encourage them to go back to school. We match them to a career, and then we cheer them on.
So you're kind of like a mentor and tutors.
We are mentors. We're supposed to be career counselors, and we end up being more than that, because when people call us, they're not willing to go back to school.
Right.
And we have to actually create a future for them that they can't see for themselves.
Right.
And we share stories
Right.
about what other people have been able to do, including myself.
Right.
I was injured on the job also as a secretary, and I developed carpal tunnel, cubital tunnel, and problems with my neck. And, at first I thought I was only going to go to school to appease my boss. But then after I had this injury, I had the injury, and I kept going, because now I felt like my job wasn't solid anymore. I needed to find something else that I could do, because with the injury that I had, I couldn't type as much anymore.
Right.
So I had to get a different kind of job.
Right.
And so psychology was the one that I saw that would have the least impact on my body.
Interesting. So that injury on your body became a blessing, creating a pathway.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So sometimes bad things can happen.
Yeah.
But it leads to something even more incredible.
Right.
Right. When I was working for my boss, I thought that that's as good as it gets for me. And
that was just your
now-
beginning.
Yes, it was just my beginning.
He was your pushy angel, just to help you begin to see a larger vision for your life.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we always have vision, right? So I saw myself working for him for the rest of my life.
Right.
And then my vision expanded, and then it keeps expanding.
Right.
And what I talk about is the way to create a miracle life is by creating a miracle vision,
Yes.
right?
Break that down.
So there's this phenomenon that happens that when you ask yourself, where do you see yourself in 5 years? Most people will say, I'm good. And so that happened to me as well. Somebody asked me, where do you see yourself 5 years from now? And I said, well, I'll be 5 years older. I already have my career. I'm a psychologist.
Right.
I'm already earning the amount of money that I'm going to make. I already, for the future, I already know this. I work at a school district. Not much is going to change.
Right.
And I said, well, and my kids will be 5 years older. And the woman looks at me and says, wow, you didn't even think about that. Like, give us some time.
Right. Let something percolate.
Yeah, I was like, well, I mean, I was certain that I knew the future, and the future was the same, except 5 years older.
Right.
Why do I have to even give that a thought?
Right.
How many of us don't do that, right? We think we know everything and we answer right away, and we don't give ourselves the time to contemplate and create something and imagine something different. So this woman says, you know what? Think about it for 10 minutes. I'll be back. I'm sitting
And who
there.
is this woman?
She's a coach.
Okay, she's a coach. Okay.
I'm sitting there for 8 minutes. The whole time just not happy that she asked me this question. It seems like the most silliest question ever. When all of a sudden I heard like this voice inside of me that I know was not me. And it said, do you believe in miracles? And the answer is yes. And, most humans believe in miracles.
Yes.
Right? Regardless of religion.
Right.
So I did believe in miracles. And in that instant, I was able to see a future for myself that was unrecognizable. So usually your brain, when you say you want to, have a dream, what is your dream? It doesn't really come up with dreams. It comes up with goals. And goals that are reasonable, that you can attain.
Doesn't stretch you.
Yeah, it does not stretch you, because the brain's job is to protect you.
Right.
So they want to see you get hurt. It doesn't want to see you be defeated. So it want to allow you to create big dreams. So I realized in that moment that I never dreamt. I always made goals, and the goals were based on what I believed.
But you knew you could do.
Yeah. Like I'll take my kids to Disneyland.
Right.
That was a goal for me.
Right.
When I got my income tax return, I would take my kids to Disneyland. I never said I would take my kids to Disney World in Florida and have to get on a plane, and then maybe we'll go on a Disney cruise.
Right.
Because that was not possible.
It's too big.
Yeah. So I wouldn't even dream it. Right. So with this miracle mindset, I was able to see a future that was unrecognizable in the sense that I saw myself living in a pimp daddy mansion. The kinds where music videos are filmed.
You went out.
Hey, I'm going to go big, right? If it's not up to me and it's up to a miracle, then and God, then I'm going big.
Okay.
I also said I would fly in private jets. Mind you, at this time, bouncing checks, okay?
Right. Oh, this is during the bounce check era.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
This is the bounce checks era. I'm still bouncing checks. I'm 36 years old, okay? I'm a psychologist. My life is not working.
Yeah.
I'm fist fighting with my sisters.
Fist fighting.
Yes, 36 years old as a psychologist and my sister a police officer.
Wow.
We don't know how to solve our problems.
Right.
Basically, adults solve their problems with strategies they learned as children.
Right.
And so fighting, withholding love, silent treatment, those are the
intimidation, provocation, violence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What I learned as a child.
Yeah.
And here I am as an adult. Here we all are as adults fighting how we know how to do it.
Right.
And bouncing checks. And I was already divorced by this time. So when this lady asked me where I'm going to be in 5 years, I was able to create a vision for living in a pimp daddy mansion, private jets, having abundant amount of money in my bank account, having a life that looked like I'm always on vacation. Yeah.
That's what your husband says.
Yes, I know. We do have that
That's
now.
what he says to me.
So everything happens.
He says, yeah, we do all this work, but it looks we're on vacation all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what happens. So it's really interesting that the minute that you make a declaration, it's like God, the universe, like delivers it, and it delivers it with a bag of chips, right? Like, oh, you want to have a life that looks like you're always on vacation? Would you like that with a private jet, with luxury hotels and speaking all over the world? Like, how about that? How about being treated like a dignitary whenever you travel? That is what happened to me, and it didn't happen in 5 years. It happened in 2 years.
Okay, so what happened?
And all of these things started
this
happening.
miracle mindset.
Yeah.
You made a declaration.
I made a declaration, and then this woman told me, "Okay, you saw it in your brain, and now draw it." And so I drew it. And my drawing looks like a 4-year-old drew it.
Sure.
But when you come to my home, it's framed in my dining room because everything happened. Everything that I drew came to
And what did you have on it?
I drew a castle as my home, and it looks very much like the home I live in right now. I drew an island with a palm tree and myself laying down, always on vacation. I drew a private jet flying over the house. I drew the love of my life and myself holding hands inside a heart. And I drew a heart with the word family. And I said that if I believed in miracles, that I would get along with my sisters, like we were in heaven. We grew up fighting all the time. And so for me, that's been like one of my greatest accomplishments is being able to have peace with my sisters.
So you guys are close now.
Oh yes, we're so close. And I mean, we had wasted so much time fighting.
Yeah.
And honestly, the only one that had to change was me.
Ooh, isn't that something?
I know, and I always had it that it was them over there, right? Like I would get along with my sisters if they weren't such, bitchs, right?
But it's the second time that word has been used today.
Yeah, no, it's really interesting how people will disarm when you tell them how much you love them.
Yeah, yeah.
And I started to do that.
So what actually? Okay, so within 2 years, what happened? What moves that you have to make?
I want to say that I'll tell you this: that I never knew I wanted these things, but when I saw it, boy, did I want that! I fell in love with it.
It wasn't in your paradigm.
No.
Yeah.
I would have never dared. To say that.
Yeah. I
saw it and I wanted it. And now in my real life was so incongruent to that vision that I said, I have to choose. And so now if I want to be a millionaire, I can't be broke. I can't have my bank account negative.
Right.
And then if I want the love of my life, I need to work on myself so I can be healthy in a relationship.
Right.
And I started working on every area that I imagined to be a miracle vision. And I said, what's one little thing that I can do towards each one of these areas that doesn't cost me a dime?
Right.
And so watch videos on healthy relationships. I learned about that. I signed up for a Dating 101 class. I read books, The Mastery of Love with Don Miguel Ruiz. Oh my God, that book is amazing.
Yeah.
I read a lot of books and I checked them out from the library. Free. Doesn't cost anything. Right. So I educated myself. I told you I never saw my parents go to the bank. My mom would get the welfare check and go to a check cashing place that took
Oh,
money
money
from that, which
just to
kept
cash
us
it.
even more broke.
Right.
So I learned about financial planning.
Mm-hmm.
I learned about being in relationships. I learned about family relationships and dynamics, and how to make my money grow. And little by little, I started making changes. And then I started being very present to my dream. And when my sisters wanted to fight, I didn't partake because that's not what I wanted.
Right.
I wanted to get along with them.
Right.
I want to love them.
How did they respond when you stopped reacting to them? Did they say
They
thought
told me
something
to
was wrong
stop
with
acting white.
you? That's what they said?
Yes.
Stop acting like...
Yeah. I offered all the alternatives for our communication. And they said, stop acting white. You know how we do.
Yeah, you know how we do. This is our
Yeah.
culture. This is our tradition. We fight.
Yeah, we fight. That's passion. That's because we love each other. There's always problems. Sisters fight.
Right.
And I really always thought that as well, that sisters fight and relationships have problems. And that's not true.
It doesn't have to be true.
No,
Right,
it doesn't
right.
have to be true. And honestly, I mean, I've been in a relationship with Albert for 15 years.
Yeah. That's-
And we are like so in love and growing in our
he
companionship.
talks about you so highly. I mean, he talks about you as if you just started dating 6 months ago.
Yeah.
You know, and everything you're describing in terms of the kind of life you want to live, being of service, but looking like you're on vacation. That's what he said that you guys do.
Exactly.
You know, he'll call me and say, Mama, I'm on my way to Uganda. I'm on my way to Costa Rica. I'm on my way to Nicaragua. I'm on my way to Mexico, you know.
Yeah.
But while we're there, we're helping this orphanage. We're
Yeah.
doing this. We're doing that. It's like you make big impact wherever you go
Exactly.
while you're having a great time.
Yep.
So you
You can have it all.
Absolutely. I absolutely agree.
Yeah. So in one of the chapters in my book, I call it the millionaire of time,
Mm-hmm.
and how to leverage your time. So
Right.
we travel, we bring our friends that we love to spend time with. We want to do social impact, so we make sure we do that as well.
Right.
And we have meetings, business meetings, and we get to have it all.
Right. So you have this counseling center.
Yes.
What else are you doing?
I also have a new business that we started in Mexico. It's teletherapy. In Mexico, there's a law that an employer must offer 10 hours of mental health. So if you have an employee that approaches you and says that they're feeling depressed or burned out, that they have a tool that they can use to help them. And it's the law, and they enforce it
This is in Mexico.
in Mexico. So I already had a business associate that has a call center in Argentina. And Argentina is one of the leading places for psychologists. And they only get paid $12 an hour.
The psychologist.
Yes. And so we figured out a business where we can take advantage of high quality psychologists at low price and offer the service in another area of the world that is in demand.
That's
And
Mexico.
so that is Mexico. Yes. And I love Mexico. And I'll tell you that I think that I manifested that because I told Albert, I want to figure out how to come to Mexico City more often. I love Mexico City.
So you, again, making high impact while on vacation.
Exactly.
Or while
Yeah.
on vacation, you're making high impact.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so this opportunity came up right away. So what I believe is that when you create a vision of what you want, and then you have faith that it could happen, you believe in the miracle, that you can make it happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. Your brain is actually wired to make your goals come true.
Right.
It is. And so we need to leverage that.
So am I missing anything else? What else are you doing? I know you got a
Yes.
lot. You speak. I mean, you're one of the great speakers in Latin America.
Yes, I'm
Yeah.
one of the highest rated speakers in my organization in Latin America. I've been speaking all over the chapters and also independently with other organizations that have me speak there. And what I talk about is how to transform your life from a poverty mentality to abundant mentality.
Right.
Right, which is this process of creating a miracle vision.
Right.
And I do this process over and over in my entire life. And so I also said that in 10 years, I wanted to make an impact in the world. This was a year and a half ago. I'm clear that I'm making an impact locally in my community,
Right.
in California for injured workers.
Right.
However, in the world,
Yes.
it seemed to me like something that I wasn't ready for, something that was going to happen in the future. Well, the future is now. As soon as you declare it, it happens.
Right.
And so this opportunity showed up to help a hospital in Uganda help build a hospital in Uganda. And we started to do that. And I did that, and I asked for some financial support on Facebook, a GoFundMe. And then all of a sudden, people were sending thousands of dollars. And I realized that people want to help.
Yes.
And then people were asking me, do you have a nonprofit? Can I get a write-off, for my taxes if I give you this donation?
Right.
And that was the point where I said, I need to start a nonprofit so that people can help. Create a vehicle so that people can give.
Right.
Because they want to.
What's
that
the name
was a
of it?
Given. High Tide Global.
That's what I wanted to get to. High Tide
yes,
Global.
High Tide. Oh my gosh. High Tide to me is like a high tide lifts all boats.
Yes.
And the intention was that people that have already made it can help other people come up, really, right? And so the intention is to give this education. So I wasn't born with all of this education that I share now. My parents didn't impart that. They imparted other things to me, other good qualities as well. But financial literacy and vision and celebration, like celebrating your wins, like that's not something that my parents taught me.
Right.
They taught me being humble and staying small and get married and have kids, be a good family member,
And
be a good
fight
society.
with your family if you have to.
Fight with them if you have, that's normal.
Right.
But still be together, right? So that's what I do in the world in High Tide. So I asked my friends, if you have any programs that you sell to people that can pay for them, if you donate them to my nonprofit, I will share it in the world with the people that can't afford them, but they want the information. And that's what I've been doing.
Like, for instance, what kind of programs?
Like self-esteem and mindset programs for children and teachers and parents, parenting classes as well, and then how to master your miracles. So I get a lot of those types of programs donated to my nonprofit, and I find a champion in different countries, and then they connect me to their local charity that they vetted, and then we launch it there. So we're in Guatemala, Mexico, Africa, Colombia, Puerto Rico, and even here in Los Angeles.
So you are making the global impact.
Yeah.
And you're bringing people a sense of self-esteem through them works that they're doing, having them grow in particular talents, gifts, skills, things of that particular nature.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. What I say is I'm holding the space for people's dreams to come true, right? By virtue of leading them down the road of creating a dream. If you don't have a dream, you can't have a dream come true.
No, that's right.
Right. And so that is what I do through the nonprofit. And I really believe that if people are having their dreams come true, they become happy, healthier people, and then those people now tend to want to help other people, and that is how we lift the tide of humanity.
Right.
Like be for each other.
Right.
But if you're just struggling to make ends meet and get over your drama and your traumas and your problems that you have in your life, you're not helping anybody.
Right. You're sucking energy rather than circulating it and glowing with it.
There's no room.
Yeah.
You don't have room. You're depleted.
Yeah. Is there anything you're not doing? What else are you doing?
I also have another business to help the formerly incarcerated.
Right.
It's a personal development seminar. I partnered up with a formerly incarcerated woman when we shared stories of life after getting released from prison. My mom was released from prison 12 years after serving her sentence and was deported to Mexico. She didn't know how to handle her finances. And she didn't know how to keep healthy. And she ended up also gravitating to the same kind of crowd of people that she was with in prison.
Right.
She was very comfortable in that environment. And when you get deported, they tend to deport everybody in the same area. So you see your buddies from jail.
Hanging out there.
Hanging out. Plus she wasn't set up properly. If you educate them, and then when they get out, they have a powerful start. And she did not have any of that. And so she ended up dying 2 years after. She stopped taking her medication. She stopped managing her money. She basically became a homeless person. And 2 years later, she was gone. So it's my passion to help.
This is like a living memorial for your mom. Kind of. Yeah,
totally. I want to help other people. I have the time and I have the resources and the passion to do that. And I see that it makes a difference. I'm making a difference.
Right.
So I want to build, like this army of pushing angels of people doing good. And if I need to be the example of that, I'll be here with you.
I love it. I love it.
In front of the cameras, telling people that one person can make a difference, and you can too.
And you may not be able to see this, but you need to get the book, From Bounce Checks to Private Jets. But you can see that she's in front of the Taj Mahal in India. And at some point in your life, this would have been impossible for you.
Definitely.
I mean, it was way out of your comfort zone.
Yeah.
But there you are in front of Taj Mahal in India.
Yeah. And my practice now is I create a vision every 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
And also, when I'm 95 years old, I know that I'm going to be looking good.
Right.
Because
you might as well have that vision.
Right. I'm creating from the best case scenario. So I'm going to look good.
Right.
And then even recently, because there's always levels to upgrade your vision, I'm creating a vision for 1,000 years after I'm gone.
Mm-hmm.
And
legacy,
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And when you have a legacy mentality, everything you do today dictates what is going to happen in the future.
Right.
And so that's what makes me show up today, Rev, and be with you.
Yeah.
I like you a lot. And your legacy has me be here.
Outstanding. So you basically you've given a number of steps. Get over your sob story, because that makes you a master of excuses, a victim. And I have that at one of my stages in my book, getting over the victim stage. And then you start developing your miracle mindset. That is, where do you want to be in 5 years? Obviously, wherever you are, you don't want to be stagnant, even if it's somewhat nice. Mm-hmm. You want to basically, as an infinite being, continue to grow and develop and unfold. So at least put it out there. In 5 years, I'd like to be doing this. I'd like to be declaring this. I'd like to be, so you have to go for it, which is going to make you a little uncomfortable. It's going to make your brain uncomfortable. It's going to make your ego uncomfortable because, as you said, it wants to protect you. And then once you do that, doors start to open.
Exactly.
Opportunities show up that were, in many cases, already there, but you couldn't see them because you weren't declaring anything. Mm-hmm. And then that's going to make you grow. You're going to become a different version of yourself. And you also declared, which I love, or told me about this, that you wanted to make an impact while looking like you're on vacation or being on vacation. That's pretty deep. So you don't have to have this mindset of getting burned out, being overly tired all the time. You're actually having fun while you're making a difference in Uganda and Mexico or Costa Rica, everywhere that you're going. I love it. What's next for you?
These businesses right now are what's next, and partnering up. I want more people to get involved. I want more people to grow high tide to make an even bigger impact. Right now, I'm invited to speak at one of the largest school districts in the nation to train the leaders there on creating a miracle vision for kids.
Yes,
right?
It's necessary.
Yeah, look at a kid and know that they are the future, and that's not just cliche.
Right.
Like, if you believe in them, they're going to grow up and believe in themselves.
Yeah.
Right? The right mindset, the right attention.
Yeah.
I got that in school. People gave me attention, and I was having a really bad childhood at home, but school was pleasant. The teachers gave me attention. So I tell people, go back to your communities, to your jobs, and shine the light on somebody. You might make the difference.
Right. This is absolutely true. You've poured into a lot of people here today, particularly vulnerable and honest enough to share your experiences, parents, what you had, what you didn't have, and that you got over your sob story, and now you're making a difference to over 45,000 people in your counseling center, and then way more people all around the world. And I mean, I always teach, this is why we're here. We're here to become the best version of ourselves, and then to ask, how can I give? I think it was Picasso that said something like, my purpose is to find me, and then my mission is to give it away.
That's right.
You find out who you are, and then you give yourself away. You act, and this is what you're doing.
Exactly.
You found who you are, and now you're giving it away. Anything final words you want to say to the beautiful people out here listening to you? There's a lot of people out here. We maybe say this. You used to be afraid of public speaking.
Yeah.
You were scared.
Yeah. Oh,
And now you're one of the best public speakers.
that's right. I even had one of my sisters. I paid one of my sisters to take my speech class.
To do what?
Take my speech class in college because I couldn't get up there and do a 3-minute speech
She
class.
did it for you?
Yes. Yes. She took the entire class.
Did you get an A?
No, I wish. No, I was like, what? I thought you were a better speaker. You got a D in the class.
She got a D?
She said you passed. She was a troublemaker sister.
Well, she wasn't as interested as you. If you would have taken your own class, you would have got an A.
I think I would have, but I didn't know how to ask for help.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, I failed the first speech class, and I told the teacher that he saw me in the hallway, and he said, "What happened?" I said, "You know what? I was so scared." And he said, "You should have told me. I would have put together a smaller group just for you."
Wow.
I didn't know.
You didn't. Yeah. So that goes back to asking for help.
Yeah, exactly.
The universe cannot even send the beautiful angels unless you're receptive to it.
Yeah, I feel like they're waiting
Yeah.
for help, for us to ask for help.
That is true. I mean, on a angelic realm, the angels can't interfere with your life unless you ask for help. They can't intervene unless you ask for help. The ancestral line, the angelic line, you have to ask for help. You know, when I was in Costa Rica, I almost drowned one time, and when I came up to get air, I said, "I need some help here." It just came out of my mouth. I didn't consciously think those words. Just, "I need some help here," like that. And then I programmed my mind. And I said, regardless of how tired the body gets, keep swimming. And then these big 3 waves came and gave me the momentum to get back to shore. So I get back to Los Angeles, and there was nobody on the beach. There was nobody that helped me out there. Just me and my daughter were the only ones on the beach. There's no way she could get out here and catch me and bring me back in. I get back to Los Angeles, and I'm telling a friend of mine who makes her live. She's a medium. That's what she does. And I told her what happened, and she said, "Can I look?" I said, "What do you mean?" She said, "Can I go in and see what happened?" I said, "Sure." She said, "Oh, you asked for help." I said, "I did." She says, "An archangel was going by and sent you 3 big waves." She said, "He could not intervene until you asked for help." Yeah.
Wow.
So going back to your point,
Yes.
they can't intervene until you ask for help. And they'll show up as pushy angels, people, opportunities, but asking for help makes you vulnerable and open to receive.
Yes.
But if you just, "I'm going to do this by myself," you're cutting out the invisible partner.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, yeah. It's been great having you here.
Oh, thank you. My pleasure.
This is Hazel Ortega. I love the name because the woman that helped me tie my shoes when I was a little boy, her name was Hazel.
Oh.
Haven't met any. I did have another Hazel friend.
A lot of people have told me their uncles or older people in their families are named Hazel.
My mother just started working, and this lady named Hazel babysitted me. And when she came back, my mother came back to pick me up. I knew how to tie my shoes because Hazel worked with me to get it. And I was frustrated about it. I was a little boy, and so
Wow.
Hazel has a good vibe in me.
You know, Hazel's not a Latino name.
No, it's not.
And my mom didn't speak English when I was born.
Okay.
And she overheard the doctor that was delivering me speaking about his daughter who was winning some competitions, and his daughter's name was Hazel.
That's how you got it.
She said, if the doctor named his daughter Hazel, I'm going to name my daughter Hazel so that she can be successful.
Wow.
Yes.
So she imprinted something in you.
She did, and she always told me that story. So I always felt like I was going to be the successful one.
Right.
Yeah. I envisioned myself that way.
Let's go back to your sisters for just a second. How are they doing?
They're doing fantastic in what they do.
Right.
They're happy.
Good. Okay. Very good.
Thank you. And my daughter is an emergency room nurse.
Wow.
Yeah. And the youngest hire in the emergency room. So I'm really proud of her.
Beautiful.
And she uses this technology of creating a vision for her life and has her own miracles.
Yes.
You know, even being hired as an emergency room nurse when the rules were that you needed at least 2 years of nursing experience before they placed you in the emergency room. And she starts applying for jobs in the emergency room. And I ask my daughter, why are you doing that? And she says, because I can do it. I know I can. And I'm like, yeah, but the rules say that you need 2 years. And after they don't hire her for about 8 months, I say to her, maybe it's about time you apply for a regular nursing job. Right. And she said, I'm manifesting. I was like, I ruined my daughter. Oh my goodness. And then shortly thereafter, because of COVID, they mandated nurses to take the vaccine. They didn't want to. 200 nurses walked off the job. They bent the rules, and they hired my daughter.
She got in.
Got in. And today,
what's her name?
Shout her out. Her.
Shout her out.
Her name is Frances Ortega.
Frances Ortega, okay.
She works down the street here.
Wow, beautiful. Frances Ortega manifested a miracle. When the rules said no, Spirit said yes.
That's right.
Get over your sob story, everyone. Hazel, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you.
Everyone, the book is entitled From Bounced Checks to Private Jets. It's in Spanish and English on Amazon or everywhere books are sold. See you in a moment. Peace. Blessings. And it was a great interview with Hazel Ortega. I like the emphasis on the miracle mindset. So let's turn within. In this moment, we're going to practice a little meditation, which is the foundational piece of the work we do here at Agape, the work I do personally, and it's in everything that we do, including Take Back Your Mind podcast. So let's take our attention and turn inward for a moment. Extract your attention from the world of effects and circumstances and situations, and come inward. Give yourself some space for a few moments so that you can find the spaciousness within your own being. In this moment of silence, one thing that Hazel said was, your dream can't come true if you don't have one. So right now, begin to open yourself up to what's trying to happen through you. Not the vision that the world holds for you. Not a vision or a dream of simply reacting to external circumstances. But what does life want to give through you? What does life want to share through you? What does life want to contribute through you? Just begin to catch the feeling of what how life wants to know itself as you. This is the beginning of your dream, the beginning of a vision pulling you. And as Hazel reminded us, what she curated within her vision and her dream was she wanted to feel like she was on vacation. So even though she's making a great impact in the world, building a hospital in Uganda, telehealth in that hospital, working with individuals who've been injured to help them go back to school and find new careers, speaking around the nation and around the world. She has placed within her dream having fun, being happy, and feeling like on vacation, even though making an impact. So let's add that to your feeling tone. What does life want to contribute through you? And let it be saturated with joy and fun and having a great time as well. Now, without censorship or denial, Let the dream or the vision come into your awareness now. You may not be able to see it, but you might be able to feel it. What does it feel like? What does it sound like? What is its energy? Wake up to it. There's a vision pulling you. There's a dream that wants to come true as you become true to you. What does it feel like? What does it look like? What does it sound like? What is its essence? Now, to the best of your ability, say yes to it. Declare it, decree it, announce it, affirm it in your own awareness. Say yes to it. So that your life will be curated and pulled by a vision rather than by mere survival. So that opportunities begin to show themselves, possibilities begin to reveal themselves, help begins to show up, because the vibrational frequency that you're carrying becomes a strong radio-magnetic field that appears to draw to you everything that you need for it. Feel it now. Now give thanks that it's already happening, not in the future. Give thanks that it's happening right now. The paramagnetic field is surrounding you. Manifestation of the soul is occurring. And so it is. As you open your eyes, just feel that something is happening for you right now that's going to show up in the world. Have a beautiful day. You know how to support the podcast? Support the sponsor, Agape International Spiritual Center, agapelive.com. Make a donation, see what's happening in the community. Also, go to NutraRise.com. The product is called AdaptaZen. 47 different plant-based ingredients curated for your health. Adaptogens, digestive, enzymes, and more. Probiotics, prebiotics, and powerful ingredients. Get the bundle. The D3K2 liquid in a bed of MCT oil and olive oil for great bioavailability. You might as well be healthy while you're on this journey of self-discovery and activation. Those are the sponsors. Have a beautiful day. Your time is very valuable, so I want to thank you for lending us your ear and participating in taking back your mind. If you want to submit a question for the question of the week, please submit it to podcast@michaelbeckwith.com. If you've enjoyed what you've heard today, please submit a review and let us know your thoughts. Stay on top of current episodes by subscribing to the podcast so that you'll receive alerts and not miss one single episode. And feel free to share this podcast with all of your friends and family. And until we meet again, take back your mind, and you will take back your life. Peace and blessings.